The gully scenario is a rearguard action, whereas the Prussian 2nd Brigade has to slow up the advance of the French right flank army and prevent them from exiting the far edge of the table, way down here, by the bookcase, during the scenario's 10 turns, at the same time minimizing their losses. The French, of course, is the opposite. They need to push aside the 2nd Brigade real quickly and exit the far edge of the table. The initial orders for the French start off here on the left. The 4th Cavalry Division of Light Cavalry has got march orders, indicated by the green marker underneath the officer. The 11th Infantry has got attack orders at start, indicated by the red marker underneath the officer. The Old Guard Cavalry Detachment has got march orders, again the green marker. There's the Emperor Napoleon himself. And the 11th Dragoon Division has got attack orders, indicated by the red marker. The Prussians start the day with engage orders, indicated by the yellow marker underneath. Each of these orders has a capability for the units and what they can and cannot do on the battlefield, otherwise they would be considered violating their orders. Enter the French first turn. As you can see, additional divisions have arrived. Starting on the right, the 10th Dragoon Division, following the 9th, which is part of the French Dragoon Corps, and that's the Corps headquarters there, that little base. Alongside them is the 8th Infantry Division, following up the 11th Infantry Division, which is in front, all commanded by General Van Damme, and that's his headquarters there with a little sapper detachment. And out on the far left flank arrived the 5th Light Cavalry Division, which is part of the Light Cavalry Corps. And that's their headquarters right there. All first turn firepower is done for the French half of the turn. Prussians lost 1 from the artillery bombardment. And over here on the left, the Prussian Fusilier screen inflicted a loss on the lead French battalion and even put it into disorder. Notice how we turn one of the figures around to represent morale disorder. At the beginning of the Prussian half of the first turn, the French have their charge declaration phase. As you can see, the front 2 French Dragoon regiments are electing to call a charge against the Prussian squares which are up on the hill. This is more of a pinning type of attack and slow their movement down for the Prussian infantry, that is, than actually to get in a result against the squares. The Prussians have done their first turn movement. As you can see, they back their squares up a little bit, wheeled the 2nd Prussian Dragoons into line on the hill. Their skirmisher Fusilier battalion broke into open order formation and is retiring, protected by 2 squares, just prior to the French charge phase we haven't come up to. Threw out some of the Freiwilliger Jaeger screens. The gun limbered up and is retiring, or struggling to retire. The Westphalian Landwehr is deployed off the road and going into line formations. As you can see, the Landwehr cavalry has exited the road and is passing through the woods, due to the undergrowth in these woods has been well maintained and cleared away. And because we entered the A zone, or the leftmost row of hexes, it allowed the Prussians to bring on their 6th Uhlans from this edge here as an opening move. And that's all because the French 5th Light Cavalry Division entered the A row, or the leftmost foot of the table. I've moved the first charging unit, or shocking unit, up against the square. In this case, 5 figures of French Dragoons against an 8-figure Prussian infantry square, the 28th foot. The Prussian infantry, starting in a square formation, did not have to do a receiving roll to receive charging cavalry, so they fired their muskets and had no effect on the charging cavalry. Now we'll go to the shock table and see if there's any results there. 5 was rolled. Usually in shock combat against square by charging cavalry, the cavalry is repulsed, and that's exactly what happened in this situation. Disorder, retire. Infantry withstood the assault and bounced the cavalry. There will be a 2nd unit charging up the hill. Most likely it will be the same result. Instead of actually charging home, the French elected to do the 4-inch, what we call the pump fake, and just make a 4-inch move forward and then stop, ending the charging cavalry unit in a state of morale disorder. So there was no actual impact on the Prussian square. To conclude the first turn, we had the 2nd Mutual Artillery and Infantry fire segments. The French battery up on the hill opened fire again with bombardment and successfully scored another hit on the Prussian infantry, which was exposed, causing another loss. They passed their morale check. Other than that, there was really no much infantry fire going on. And in summary of the first turn, the 5th Cavalry Divisions arrived here on the flank under attack orders now. got the 4th Light Cavalry Division moving up, again with attack orders. The 8th Infantry Division moving up in the center. The 11th is coming up here on the right side. The Guard Cavalry, again notice their commanders changed to attack orders. The 9th Dragoon, which tried the assault on the hill and slowed the Prussian withdrawal by exerting a charge zone, has been repelled. One unit got forced to retire here on the edge of the table, and the other one pulled up short on its charge. And over here on the rightmost flank is the other 2 regiments of the 9th Dragoon Division, which are advancing in line, and marching on the board is the 10th Dragoon Division. For the Prussian side, they pulled back their infantry and their guys in square a little bit. The cavalry rolled into line here on the flank. The landwehr cavalry came off the road and is marching through the woods. The 6th Lancers have come on the board and running across the field here in the back in open order, and the landwehr Westphalian is deploying along the wood's edge. The French have completed their movement of the second turn. There was no Prussian rallying needing to do at the start of the turn. And now we're going to go on to the shock and then on to the mutual artillery and infantry fire phases. As you can see, the French are definitely pushing forward their advantages, trying to push in the Prussian rear guard. They're infiltrating around the edge of the woods here. The Fusilier Battalion in open order is trying to hold them back, skirmishing and withdrawing as they go. Second turn firing phases. The horse artillery battery bombarded the Prussian dragoons, didn't cause any significant losses. So an infantry fire was pretty sporadic. Otherwise no losses were inflicted this turn. Going on to the Prussian half of the turn, the French cavalry is all rallied up automatically from their morale disorder status, and the Guard Dragoons, Empress Guard Dragoons, are going to elect to call a charge and try and slow up the Prussian withdrawal motion. End of the first half of the second turn. At the start of the second turn, Prussian half of the turn, is the French cavalry charge declaration phase, which they did. As you can see, they charged, and consequently the Prussian dragoons up here fell into disorder from receiving the charge. The Prussian foot battery fell into disorder because it was in the charge zone, and the Prussian formerly open order Fusilier Battalion, being in open order, promptly routed and fled back into the woods. Otherwise the squares held firm because they don't take charge checks, and I have now completed the Prussian movement also in the Prussian half of the turn. So now I'm going to go to the shock phase where the charging cavalry comes home, and then go to the mutual infantry and artillery fire phases. Prussian cavalry promptly fled upon impact by the French dragoons, being already in morale disorder, so they ran down the chalk line here, which represents a path through the woods, and you can see her fleeing into the background here. The other charge, which we're about ready to do, the French Guard cavalry is charged home and is impacting the square, and just prior to that, the infantry columns threw back the skirmishers back into their parent battalions. Now we're going to do the Guard's charge impact and see what happens. As you can see, the result was a 3 on the 25% chart. 2 figures of cavalry against 6 figures of infantry. Square beat them off. It was basically a 50-50 roll though, and the Guard Dragoons have retired, passing in review, as we can say, in front of the Emperor himself, who may or may not be pleased watching his Guard Dragoon regiment retiring from impacting a Prussian square. This ends the shock phase. Last thing we have to do for the second turn is the mutual artillery and infantry fire. Firepower has been done. The French battery on the hill scored a hit on the 28th Infantry or the Berg Infantry square, caused a loss, but they passed the morale check. As you can see on the right side, the 10th Dragoons division is moving along. The 9th has gotten a little bit of a breach and has pushed back the Prussian Dragoons en route, as additional Prussian cavalry is riding over to try and secure the right flank, or the Prussian left that is. The Prussian landwehr is deployed into line along the wood's edge in the square on the road. The disordered battery is struggling to come back, while the 3 squares are slowly trying to withdraw under the pressure of the French cavalry. Meanwhile, the 8th Infantry Division has arrived and is marching forward as the Guards Dragoons are retiring in front of Emperor Napoleon. The 8th Infantry Division is pressing home their assaults. They have beaten through the screen, which has retired back to their parent battalions. Meanwhile, the 4th Light Cavalry Division of Hussars is ready to call a charge if need be. And out here in the woods, it's cat and mouse game as the Prussian Fusilier Battalion is slowly withdrawing 4 inches every turn